Hello folks, it's Anahita Rao. So today is Sunday and I am here in London speaking to you about an issue that I've kind of touched on before, but I thought it was important to make a short video on this, and that is Jupiter's return to Scorpio once it goes retro on April the 10th. And how actually this will be a true blessing for us. Yeah, let's get started with that. Okay, so Jupiter will be returning to Scorpio on April the 22nd because of its retrograde motion. And we all know that it will be in retrograde from April the 10th till August the 11th. So why is this such a good thing? Why is it a blessing? Well, we know that we have potentially a bit of a gloomy summer ahead of us with the Saturn-Ketu conjunction standing by. And I believe that Jupiter's return to Scorpio will be the best thing for us, especially to manage that potent energy in the summer. Yeah, and here's why. First things first, if you've been watching the videos and you like them, please subscribe below by hitting the like button on the right-hand side. Thank you. Before I get into this topic, I wanted to mention that I write a detailed monthly forecast, which is published on my website. Some of what I'm about to say is actually been written there in the April forecast. So I would suggest that you have a look there. You can also subscribe to the monthly forecast so that you get an email notification every month when I post it. Yeah? Okay, now Jupiter begins a retrograde cycle at about 14 minutes of Sagittarius on April the 10th. And that's going to send him back to the depths of Scorpio on the 22nd. He will remain there in Scorpio till November the 4th. Now, many of you know about the Gandanta state that Jupiter has been enduring for nearly 6 weeks. Jupiter spends the entire month of April in the Gandanta zone, zigzagging through the difficult territory that bridges the signs of Scorpio and Sagittarius. When retrograde Jupiter returns to Scorpio, he's quite capable of expressing his power in very positive ways, despite being retrograde. Even though Scorpio forces us to work through complex, very karmic energy, this will be a better place for Jupiter to remain throughout the summer, which will be marked by retrograde Saturn and Ketu coming into an embrace all the way from May till September. So now, in Scorpio, when Jupiter returns to Scorpio, it's going to be free from all the malefic energy. Because remember, in Sagittarius at the moment, it's getting the direct influence of Saturn and Ketu, because they're also in Sagittarius. It's also being aspected by Rahu and Mars. So all of the malefics are having some kind of connection with Jupiter at this point. So going back to Scorpio, it can leave that behind, and it will allow Jupiter to work his goodness and shed the light where it needs to go. And that's the most important part. Because remember, when it's in Scorpio, a Parivartan yoga is created, which is essentially an exchange of signs between Ketu and Jupiter. Jupiter is the lord of Sagittarius, where Ketu currently transits, and Ketu is the co-lord of Scorpio, where Jupiter will be transiting till November. Now, although the Saturn-Ketu conjunction seemed especially daunting, as they are both challenging influences associated with difficulty, obstacles, frustration, delays, separation, and loss, this exchange of sign between Jupiter and Ketu is a saving grace that will transform any upcoming challenges into channels towards growth and liberation, if you would like to use it that way. So it's very important to tap into that Jupiterian and Ketu energy. Another way of looking at it would be to frame any situations that cause sorrow, worry, fear, or illness, that which Saturn represents, into avenues of spiritual growth and transformation, which is what Ketu and Jupiter are representing. And by the way, Ketu and Jupiter will be stronger than Saturn. So you have to remember that as well. The subtle energy exchange created due to the connection of Ketu and Jupiter can help us manage and deal with a difficult conjunction wisely, if we are mindful of that. Basically, what does that mean? I mean, with Jupiter being a dharmic planet, it will allow us to keep our eyes on the big picture and then navigate through whatever the conjunction has in store for us, rather than getting bogged down by the details. Yeah? So any sort of upcoming situation of instability, if you look at the higher ground, if you look at the bigger picture, which is of course represented by Jupiter and Ketu. Remember, Ketu in Sagittarius is very strong to function well. And Jupiter in Scorpio is also actually quite strong. It may not be in its own sign, but Jupiter performs very well in any water sign. Yeah. So we really do want Jupiter to be functioning well, and for that matter, any benefic, Mercury, Venus, to manage the harsh energies that are created by the Saturn and Ketu conjunction. So that's the best thing that could happen for Jupiter to go back into Scorpio during the summer months, especially from May till, I would say, mid to end September. That's sort of the intense time there. With Jupiter situated back in Scorpio, this very intimidating and intense conjunction, which could end up moving and shaking us in ways that we have not experienced, becomes an amazing opportunity for growth and change. Just keep the focus on what Jupiter personifies, and also what, like I said, where the other benefics are. Because at any given time, it isn't going to be the case where every planet is challenged, right? Obviously, our dasha plays the most integral part in all of this, how we're affected personally. But we want to be able to stand to level up and gain incredible knowledge from the experiences that lie ahead, rather than be afraid of them. Because when you're afraid of something, it tends to affect you even more adversely. Retrograde planets are difficult to predict. That's the bottom line. Where the principle of reversal tends to be quite prominent. Ketu shows reversals and change in direction wherever he is. Saturn in retrograde could give effects that are reversed from what we expect. And of course laced with delays. At any rate, we can expect some choppy landscape that may be uncomfortable. But if we expect a gamut of delays and frustration in the upcoming months, we can prepare ourselves with added layers of patience and positive expectation as we navigate the waters ahead. The exchange of signs, again, with Jupiter and Ketu is going to be helpful, but the intention to activate that energy that is personified by Jupiter and Ketu has to come from within. So what does that mean? You can keep up the meditation, which is a Karaka for Ketu. Any kind of studies or learning of higher philosophies, higher subjects. Jupiter. And I would say give to charitable causes to strengthen that Jupiter and to tap into the Jupiter energy at this time. In the Saturn-Ketu conjunction video I also mentioned to tap into the dharmic planetary vibe, which is basically personified by the fire signs when they're functioning well, like the sun, and and Mars as well actually can very much be a dharmic planet when it's functioning well. And Jupiter, of course, is. So if you tap into that energy, when Mars is functioning really well, it is signifying determination and courage. When Jupiter is functioning well, it is signifying faith. So regardless of what happens, you are still holding on to your faith. And when the sun is functioning well, you're looking at the bigger picture and not losing grasp of that which you're aspiring for, and not getting caught up in the fine little details, the everyday sort of nonsense that can come with harsh planetary energies. So that is what I mean by tapping into the dharmic energy. What I would say, generally speaking, now, I mean, we're talking about 5 months here: May, June, July, August, September, if we count September as a whole. That's a lot of time. But to be even more precise, what I would say is just lay low for June and July, because those are going to be particularly intense months, because you've got Mars in the mix with a Mars and Rahu conjunction and opposition of Saturn and Ketu. And then you've also got the heavy-duty eclipses happening in June and July. So I would say those 2 months are something to be watchful for, particularly the first couple of weeks of June. And then throughout the 4.5-5 month period, the other thing that I would say is just be cautious of when the moon is transiting that axis, which is the Gemini Sagittarius axis, especially when it's conjuncting Rahu and Ketu quite closely. Those might be times where you feel particularly down or sort of defeated or restless or just negative. Negative emotions can come up at those particular points in the month. So just be watchful for the moon's transit hitting the nodal axis. And like I said, when the eclipses happen in June or July, I would say if you can avoid making decisions or taking any kind of big steps in those 2 months, that is going to be very, very helpful. But besides that, it's fairly manageable. So I wouldn't get too bogged down by it. I would say, you know, gather your strength and just calm your mind with some of the remedies that I suggested, and just align with your heart, right? I mean, there's always going to be good times and bad times, but if you are familiar with astrology, you are fortunate enough to sort of get an idea of when they're coming, rather than to take it personally and get bogged down by it. So you know that it's coming, but then it's also going to be going. So you have to sort of have that attitude with it. But frankly speaking, it's not nearly as bad as people are making it out to be. But as I said, those 2 months will be pretty intense, so I would just sort of lay low in June or July. Hope you found that helpful. Cheers. Bye.